What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Juice. My name is Sayre Bedinger, and it is Victory Monday. There's nothing better. And with me, as always, and for the first time for a Victory Monday here together, Brandon Keckler and I.
Oh, and does it feel good?
Man.
What a good debut. First Sunday of Broncos football, man.
I love it. I absolutely love it. You and I both, I think, had some technical difficulties with our just getting the game on TV initially. I don't know if you listeners out there, how you figure out what's on your local station other than I use the 506 Sports website. Have you ever heard of that? Oh, it's amazing. Well, usually it's amazing. So they just have the map of the United States, and they basically just put colors all over every single state and cover colors over every major city and all that.
I saw that infographic, or at least some infographic, and that's how I knew. Is literally every place I've ever lived, except for the place I'm currently living, had the Broncos game.
Man.
And I was in the one place that was just like, oh yeah, you're getting Dallas and Carolina. It's like, great.
Well, yeah. I mean, so I don't get it, because I was sitting there and I'm like, okay, I read this thing on, I think it was Wednesday or Thursday. I read it and I was like, all right, so we don't get the game locally here. It was pretty obvious that Omaha, Nebraska was not covered by the Broncos color. And so I was like, all right. So I made all the necessary preparations. I got Sunday ticket all set up and everything. And then I go to watch the game. I probably should have loaded it up earlier, but I went to watch the game about 5 minutes before it started. I went to turn it on and it said blacked out. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. There's no way this is happening. And so fortunately, there's a million different apps in which you can, watch football. There's that. And that's also the really horrible part of it, is that there's a million different apps in which you can watch football. And so I found it on Hulu Live, of all places. That's where I found the game. Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. So, but all is well.
So,
yes.
What are your thoughts? What is the number one takeaway from you?
I think the number one takeaway, gosh, it should always just be like they found a way to win. If they won the game, you know what I'm saying? I've always said, especially like if the Broncos when they got into the Super Bowl against Carolina, I was like, I don't care if they win 2-0. I don't care if they win 3-2. I don't care if it's 51-50. I don't care what it is.
Just put a ring on it.
Just put a ring on it. Just get me the W. Obviously, in the regular season, you care more about the details because it kind of allows you to determine, okay, how's the rest of the season going to go? I think last year at this exact time, I was sitting here thinking, man, the Broncos could be pretty good this year. I mean, if Trevor Siemian plays like that all year, but I don't get the same vibe from this team as far as like an uncertainty level. I don't know if you feel that same thing. I feel much more certain about this team. It felt like yesterday, I think the number one takeaway as far as just details of the game, the offense to me seemed to be able to move the ball at will. And that was the biggest takeaway for me. What about for you?
It looked creative. And that's where, I think that with the pieces that we had in play, a lot of these new toys, you were seeing them utilized. You were seeing, the Sanders reversal, and just the way that they employed and used Lindsey and Freeman, and the way that they rode the hot hand and didn't go too much to the well. They adapted when they needed to. For the most part, there was a few exceptions, but I just like the creativity of the play calling, which is something that I know we've talked about in the months before, which is just, I hated the past couple of years looking like our offense was like rocket science, moving the ball and just getting a first down. So it looked like they were able to go in and impose their will on the Seahawks and keep them on their heels. Now, they aren't the Legion of Boom. They're the Legion of Whom, as everyone's saying. But so it's not like we went out there and just destroyed the old Seahawks, but I like that we at least felt like we were in control when we were on offense and able to, like I said, put them back on their heels. That was nice. And being able to have a play caller that's utilizing the weapons that we have in creative ways, and most of them just being a bunch of young cats, that was awesome to see.
It was really great to see. I loved the contributions from the young players in Denver. I thought it was, I mean, we talk a lot. Almost our entire episode last time was devoted to kind of depth chart discussion, how the players have been moving and shaking around. I found it really interesting yesterday to see how they kind of, I don't know, Vance Joseph's kind of a sly dog. He messed around with the depth chart between the time that they released it after the 53 got released and then yesterday's game, because I don't know if you noticed this. But Philip Lindsay and Royce Freeman basically dominated the touches offensively. And Devontae Booker, get this, Devontae Booker, who was the number one back up until the 53-man roster was announced, 4 touches yesterday against Seattle.
Yep.
4. And that's the same number of snaps as Shaquille Barrett, who obviously has been replaced in the lineup by rookie top pick Bradley Chubb.
Yep.
So
that's about what I think Bronco country kind of expected, and a lot of people were up in arms up until the Freeman official promotion. But that just goes to show that, like, let's not react so quickly to all that. Let's see what the coaches are going to do, especially when it comes to the week 1 game plan. Let's wait and see how they're going to utilize these things. There's a lot of smoke and mirrors. There's a lot of managing of the personnel and the players in the building, as far as, like, giving the guys every opportunity, especially if they're veterans, to prove themselves to the point where they knew going in. They knew the weapons that they had were Freeman and Lindsay. And I think the most surprising thing wasn't necessarily the lack of Booker, but just how cemented into this plan Lindsay is.
Yeah. And it was rightly so. I mean, they proved quickly why he was in the lineup by getting him out on that swing pass. And that was the first touchdown of the season for the Denver Broncos. Philip Lindsay. I mean, could you, this is a great tie into kind of our mission as a podcast and the story aspect of things. Could you write a better script than Philip Lindsay, the Denver kid, scoring the first touchdown against this team and the Seahawks? It's just kind of been the Achilles heel, and I don't know. To me, it doesn't get any better than that.
It doesn't. And I wore TD's 30. Obviously, I don't have Lindsay's 30 yet. I will, but wearing TD's 30 in support of Lindsay was kind of my choice yesterday between that and Vaughn, and it looked like there wasn't a wrong answer at the end of that. My dad was wearing Vaughn and I was wearing Lindsay, and I was like, hey, I think we both made the right decision. I actually had to talk my dad out of wearing Paxton. He was going to wear Paxton one last time, and I was like, don't do it, Dad. That's one time too many.
Yeah, you did the right thing just throwing it on there when he came in that 4th preseason game.
Right. That was it for me. That was the last time that thing would go in my body.
That was
until it's being carried somewhere to its final resting place. But what a debut for Lindsay. And not only that, Vic Lombardi was in the locker room with him after the game and was like, hey man, like, Colorado kid, a lot of what you just said. Yeah. Cool story, blah, blah. What'd you think going through the end zone in front of that place that you grew up and this and that? And he's like, you know what? All I could think about was how I got to go back out there in special teams and make a tackle. He's like, you don't get to get caught up in those things. It's not college anymore. He's like, the game is going to go up and it's going to go down and it's going to it's going to fluctuate. And what you need to do is you need to go out there and you don't have time to get your head into those things. You need to keep your head in the game. You need to keep that focus, and you need to go out there. You need to make another play because this game is far from over. So it was like, dude, already, not only does the kid come in, the hometown hero, and we all feel that storyline, but he responds like a freaking vet. And he's like, dude, I just got to go out there and make a tackle on special teams. Right after he's made the first scoring play, he's like, I got to go contribute on special teams and make a freaking tackle. I love that response just as much as I love the touchdown.
Amazing. That kind of mentality, you can see now why the Broncos so highly valued college captains.
Yeah.
Guys that were not only mature in terms of their on-field presence, but just mature in general, just mature individuals. And that's reflected in the way that those guys played. Philip Lindsay played a great game. I think I don't have the count right off hand here, but I think he had 102 or 103 total yards from scrimmage. I think something like that on 17 touches. And I mean, what more could you ask for from him? I mean, if any Broncos fan out there put Philip Lindsay in your fantasy lineup yesterday in a PPR league, good on you. I thought about it.
Daily fantasy is like your last kind of flyer. That's probably super cheap. That'll be the cheapest he'll ever be ever again. So
yep.
On you.
And on that note, Philip Lindsay, I think if you are playing fantasy football, even if you're not PPR, I feel like Lindsay, I think yesterday was a sign of things to come. I think he's going to get 12 to 20 touches every single week.
I love it.
They've got to.
The top 2 stat lines for offensive rookies in week 1, combining receptions and rushes: Saquon Barkley, 20 touches for 128 yards and a touchdown. And then Philip Lindsay, 17 touches and 102 combined yards for 1 touchdown. The second overall pick and the undrafted free agent.
And one guy
that was a tweet from Taylor. I don't know how to say his last name. Coffee.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Great guy.
Great.
Yeah. Great on Twitter. Follow him on Twitter. He's fun to interact with. And we want to hear from more of you. I'm checking out our YouTube page right now. And I see that we got Anthony joining us, Graham, my boy Graham joining us, Derek. I think you know Derek because he's got the Knights of Den. Uniting us. Knights of Den.
Yeah.
Love it.
Knights of Den.
Yep, I love it.
Graham, night, baby.
Yes. Graham brings up a great point that the offensive line made him really excited for this year. I think that the offensive line yesterday deserves some love because
kind of an underrated story, both in the pass protection and the run game.
It was very, very underrated.
And Case Keenum was stacked up against us. Yeah, right. Yeah. They stacked that box for the most part. It was even impressive a lot of times the yards that we were able to carry, and it did look like we were running into the pile a lot. But I think you had made the comment that it looks like they're trying to really set some stuff up with some of these runs. Mm-hmm. And I think especially as it went along, as we kind of tired and gassed them out, dude, having Freeman come in as the closer and just pounding them down when they're at the end of the game, and they've been chasing after Lindsay, chasing after Sanders reversals, and running after those receivers that we were having. And then by the end of the game, for Freeman to come in and close and be that just pounder, man, was awesome. And that's all that dude. That O-line is the unsung hero of the game, in my opinion.
Yeah, they did an incredible job. They really did. From left to right, I don't think that there was a moment in the game where I was like, dang, like that offensive lineman's really got to pick it up. I mean, last year and in the past probably 3, 4, maybe even 5 years, that has been the case. You can point out the weak links. As a side note, thanks to guys like Khalil Mack no longer being in the AFC West, maybe that helps a little bit. The Seahawks don't have the edge presence necessarily that he brings to the table, or even that like Justin Houston brings to the table. Joey Bosa and Melvin Ingram, obviously in a class of their own. Frank Clark for the Seahawks is a really good player, but I don't think they bring anyone off the edge that's that good other than Clark. But at the same time, I mean, got to give credit where it's due. The offensive line played a great game. They opened up the whole and the most impressive thing that they did, in my opinion, the 4-minute drill at the end of the game when Royce Freeman came into the game and the Broncos were like, all right, we're not going to be super aggressive here and try to score the ball right away. We're going to try and pound out this clock. And they bled that
smart
thing. Yeah,
that was smart. Schler's commentary on that was really cool because it's like, okay, I texted you, we need a first down here. Really need a first down. Of course, that'd be great to get the first down. But, when you're at that 3rd and 7 and you're like, okay, do we take the guaranteed rush and knock the 40 whatever seconds off? That ended up being the smart move, especially when you got that Denver D that's like, let us close this thing out.
Yep.
We almost got another Vaughn sack. It ended up not being a sack, right? When Russell dropped it.
I'm confused about how the NFL scores that, because had he picked it up, he could have thrown it, right?
Right.
So
it looked like Wolf. It looked like Wolf and Vaughn both got to it at the same time. So if it was a sack, it would have been like another half sack. But yeah, I don't know how that works. Yeah, regardless. And look at that. That was all Russell Wilson. That was not a bad snap. That was Russell Wilson with Von Miller inside of his mind, like sacking his psyche before he's even had a chance. I love it.
Oh yes, I love that. Von Miller will do that, man.
He made a mental error because of how scared he was of our pass rush.
And honestly, I don't blame him. I mean, Von Miller was that good yesterday. Every single play, it felt like Miller was going to do something. You know? You said that feel about him.
Well, and look at the one-on-ones that they had to give him because of what was getting hit from every single side. You know, we talk a lot here at the Juice about the fire all the missiles and the orange rush. You know, I want that orange rush t-shirt that I came across yesterday. I'm going to buy that. But dude, the orange rush, fire all the missiles. That was a huge reason. I mean, look at that last Von sack when, you know, Chubb was bearing down and Russell's like, oh no. And then he turns around into bam, Von Miller, baby. So it's like so much of, I think, what this potentially record-breaking sack season, defensive MVP, you know, just casting it out into the future. So much of that's going to come because of the fact that you really going to double up Vaughn, because we'll fire 3 other things at you. Those plays where we had all 4 of them at the same time, Ray, Sack Barrett, and Chubb and Vaughn all come in. You can't double Vaughn. Yeah. You know, you can only double Vaughn on those ones where you check and see, okay, none of those other terrifying guys are out here, you know, which is hopefully if our D's, you know, scheming it right, that ain't going to happen too much.
Yeah. And they did a good job. I think Joe Woods catches a lot of flack for not being Wade Phillips, to put it as nicely as possible. I think a lot of people dislike Joe Woods because he's not Wade Phillips, because the Broncos, when they brought in Vance Joseph, they decided, you know, we're going to keep this hot young coordinator instead of Phillips, who, I mean, we don't know if he's year to year at this point in terms of like, is he going to retire soon? I mean, he's been in the NFL a long time. So I don't think we can blame the Broncos for that, but Joe Woods did a good job of dialing up some pressures yesterday. Yeah. The first play of the game for the defense was a combo sack by Bradley Chubb and Darian Stewart, and I watched that play a few times. Stewart doesn't look like he's blitzing at all. I mean, he's got to be six yards off the ball when that. So
I missed that first series. So Chubb got a half sack.
Yeah, Chubb got a half sack, and Stewart. So Chubb got there first, and then Stewart kind of finished it off. It was kind of bang bang, but it was a really, really nice play. Stewart, I want to say. I mean, he looked like he was playing, you know, kind of like that off-ball outside linebacker position, and he was just lurking over there. And he came in, and it was kind of a delayed blitz too, so the coverage was obviously really good. The Broncos were able to kind of run that delayed blitz, and maybe it was even something where Stewart was, you know, hey, if he does like a 7-step drop, get after him. But if he does a 3-step drop or a 5-step drop, stay in coverage. I mean, I don't know what they're told to do. I have no idea, but it looked like he had no chance to get there. And then the coverage held up, Chubb hit Wilson, and then Stewart came in to finish it off. And it set the tone. And then that sack late in the fourth quarter from Chris Harris Jr. when you texted me after that, and you're like, that was a perfect time to dial up the cornerback blitz on the third down. Right. The Seahawks had no answer for it. Russell Wilson, one of the smartest quarterbacks in the league, one of the best at reading defenses, and he did a good job of reading the Broncos defense throughout the game, but he totally whiffed on that cornerback blitz. Yeah. He didn't see it coming at all. And so
these are the 2 biggest, I would say, not the biggest takeaways, but 2 major things that I think get me really excited is, 1, we sacked the hardest quarterback to sack 6 times. So imagine what we're going to do to these slow white guys. They're doomed. They're doomed. They're absolutely doomed. And not only that, okay, that was great. That's great. I'm so excited. That was kind of harkens back to what DeMarcus Ware was saying about how, I'm the last Bronco to sack Russell Wilson. Well, let's change that today. And they changed it, man. They changed it. Second of all, there's a couple ways to look at the Case turnovers. And I think when Broncos country after week 1 sees those things, I would say it is an easy knee-jerk kind of simple reaction to make comparisons to 2017 and make comparisons to the Broncos of the past 2 years. But then you're really cherry picking because we just put up more yards than we have since Peyton.
Right.
So
Good Peyton.
In a regular season game, you know, so we put up almost 300 yards in the first half. I think it was somewhere close to that. And you know, we put up 2 touchdowns. We scored 2 touchdowns for the first time since week 2 of last year. So I mean, you're coming out the gates and you're doing some good things, but then you're also some bonehead plays. And especially that first interception was just, you know, a terrible read. Then listening to the press conference afterwards, and hearing Case kind of address all that. And then not only that, but how he responded. So I think that's the difference, was that we screwed up, but we responded after the screw ups and did really well. We showed that we were going to fight through adversity. That was beautiful. Vance talked a lot about that, about fighting through adversity. He talked about it with the team before the game, you know, and talked about it with the press afterwards. And so I think there's a couple ways to look at that. Oh, we're turning it over and we're looking like 2017 again. Or how about what are we going to look like with our pros if we can minimize those cons and we can play more consistent, tighter football? We were a bit loose, but we're a new team, man. We got a lot of new people playing in the spotlight in a regular season game for the very first time. And we showed so much more reason to get excited and so much more reason to be hyped about our potential than reasons to doom and gloom over those 3 Case mistakes. In my opinion.
Yeah, and I think it says a lot about what Bill Musgrave and the offensive staff thinks of Keenum, the fact that they let him go out there and sling it around like that. And Vance Joseph talked about the fact that I think it was either Vance or Musgrave talked about the fact that there were a lot of plays. He didn't specify exactly how many, and he didn't have to. But he said that there's a lot of plays that Keenum has the flexibility to go up to the line of scrimmage and kind of just say, you know what, here's what I see. Let's change it up. Or that really big pass play, I can't remember exactly when it was in the game, the big pass play to Cortland Sutton over the middle of the field. Watch that play again and tell me that you're not impressed by the fact, and maybe this is just something that I'm not used to, because with Peyton Manning even, it was a lot of, quick reads. Peyton Manning didn't have to sit in the pocket for a long time because he knew how to beat you before the snap. So Peyton Manning didn't always have to go through 1, 2, 3, 4, all right, check it down. Peyton Manning could know before the play, all right, I know that I'm going to hit my check down. I'm going to look off the safety, yada, yada. So, but with Case Keenum on that Cortland Sutton play, Cortland Sutton had to have been his 3rd or 4th read in the progression, because you watch him, you watch his eyes, you watch him stay calm in the pocket, you watch the pocket form around him from that offensive line, and then you watch him look from his right. He looks directly to his right, and then he flips it all the way over to his left. He sees Sutton, and he whips the ball out there. And that was incredible. Just a great display of what the season could bring offensively and what this passing game is capable of. 470 yards of total offense, that doesn't happen unless you are dealing through the air. And so to me, Case Keenum, I'm willing, especially since we won, I'm willing to give some grace there on those throws, because number one, I think he was trying to make some bigger plays on those passes than except I think the second interception was kind of just a great play by the defensive back on a shorter throw. But the 2 other interceptions were thrown 15, 20 or more yards downfield. And so he's trying to push the ball downfield when obviously, the first interception, he's got Phillip Lindsay uncovered in the flat. And obviously now, knowing what we know, we'd rather he do that. But I don't mind him taking those shots, taking those risks, because he's the type of a player that's going to go back and watch that on film, and he's going to make the adjustment. He's not going to make that same mistake again. He had 7 picks all last season. So let's see how he responds week 2 against the Raiders, because you know what? I tweeted it. I said it as soon as we made that turnover. I said, doesn't matter. We're coming right back here and we're going to score. Like, we're going to bounce back right now, and then boom, they go out there, they throw another pick. Oh, dang. Then that would have deflated, and crushed my spirit. But, that was the thing, is like, I don't care about the mistakes if you bounce back and you recover from them. And that's what I saw.
was, he threw 3 interceptions, but he kept coming back and he kept firing he kept firing touchdowns. And even that one to DT, he still trusted himself to thread that one along the, bam. I thought it was picked off. I thought that was an interception number 4 until DT comes up and they're showing that he, went through that guy, like right past his hands, that he gunned that in there in a dangerous throw, despite being having 3 interceptions on his stat sheet at that point. And he still took the risk and gunned it to DT in that dangerous throw and got the touchdown. So I like that. I don't want him to get timid in that situation because he's thrown 3 picks. So I'm not going to sit here and like bash him over those mistakes. I'm not going to be like, oh, it's okay, you didn't do anything wrong, because you did. I mean, Chris Harris was talking in the locker room afterwards and was saying, yeah, Case had some really bad passes, and we still something like they're addressing it. Sanders was addressing it. They were talking about how, like Case didn't do as good as he wanted to, and he is disappointed and blah blah. But we got that victory, lot to build upon, lot to grow from, and that's what I'm excited about. I'm gonna give him every ounce of grace to come out week 2 and just, and study the heck out of all of those mistakes, all the things he did wrong, trust the coaching staff to do the same. I don't know what happened on that first interception. I know he should have thrown it, but it seemed like he thought DT was going to cut back. Like, I don't know the context enough of what they were trying to do to really even judge and gauge those mistakes to their, to maybe what they actually were. I'm not going to say one way or the other, but I'm going to let the pros do their job and come out and show me something else week 2. And it's clean slate for me.
Yep. Completely agreed on that. And I think something interesting that fans and listeners should know about Keenum's week 1 performance. So he did, even despite those 3 interceptions, he still completed 64% of his passes, 64.1% to be exact.
That's awesome.
8 yards per attempt, which is really good. And then there were 4 dropped passes. So his adjusted completion percentage, taking into account those 4 drops and throwaways, 78.4% adjusted completion percentage. And so those interceptions, again, they're correctable mistakes, and Keenum is throwing the ball so that his receivers can catch it at nearly 80% of the time.
That's awesome.
And that to me, I mean, you talk about, look at the Tim Patrick play yesterday. I got the game going on in the background here because I'm just kind of watching as we're talking, just to kind of bring some of these up fresh in the memory. Tim Patrick had that play just there at the end of the 3rd quarter that could have been a touchdown.
Yeah.
I mean, it probably should have been a touchdown. He just mistimed his jump, and that's not me trying to make an excuse for Keenum. Watch the play. Watch Tim Patrick. He's coming down.
Schlereth said that, when he was commentating, he said, that was on Case. But then as they showed the replays, like, actually, I think that might have not been on Case. I think that was probably Tim Patrick mistiming the jump.
Yeah.
And he was right.
He's exactly right. So
I do feel like we saw more good than bad from Case. And I mean, maybe I'm wrong in that. I don't know. I know that a lot of Broncos fans were really harsh on him with all that. But man, I really felt like even with those 3 interceptions, that there was more reason to think that we are massively improved at the quarterback position.
Yep.
Even with those 3.
Yep. Big statistic for our running backs. So they both had literally the exact same statistics rushing wise, which is fun. And I think what pick in the draft was Royce Freeman? Was he 71 or was he 73?
I don't know.
I'm going to look it up really quick. Because both of our rookie running backs, oh, that's funny. Okay. So both of the Broncos rookie backs, 15 rushing attempts for 71 yards. Freeman was, as a matter of fact, the 71st overall pick in the draft.
Wow.
And they rushed for a combined 8 first downs on those 30 carries, which is fine. Each of them had 2 carries of 10 or more yards. But Freeman did what he does best, and I love this. 41 of his 71 yards came after initial contact.
I love it.
I love it. Phenomenal. When you talk about a guy like that who has to grind out yards, that's his job. You grind out yards, you finish out drives. That's really nice. And I think that the big chunk plays for him are going to come as he gets more comfortable. Yesterday, like you said, I mean, they kind of ran into the offensive line just a little bit too often. but I really liked what I saw from Freeman, and especially Lindsey. I mean, you talk about a guy who's kind of surprising in terms of being a between the tackles runner. I was really impressed by him. Overall, what were your thoughts on the game? How would you kind of grade Freeman and Lindsey's performance?
Well, I love it. I mean, especially there's a weird stat I read this morning that was like, we're the first team since like at least 1950 to debut 2 rookies and have them go for over 70 yards or something like that.
Wow.
It was like the first time, like people have done that with 1, but to debut 2 rookies, 2 rookie running backs to have 70 yards, I think was what it was in week 1. It hasn't happened since 1950. So we're the first team to come out the guns with a couple rookies and actually run them really well, which is awesome, man. It just shows a lot of potential that we have. Like I said, you can just pound the ball with Freeman. You can do a lot of this quick stuff with Lindsey. And then, especially if they're tired and worn down at the end of the game, Freeman, if he's rested and he's still good to go by the end of the game, we're really going to be able to do something special as bringing him in as the closer. I think I think that could be interchangeable. I think there's a lot of stuff you can do early in the game with Freeman, and then they're too tired to chase Lindsey down. So we'll see. That's going to be awesome that we have 2 young kids that love being here, that we love having, that we're using creatively, that are both dynamic in their own ways. The way that Lindsey was talking about Freeman was awesome after the game, just praising him, praising like what they both do for the team. He's got such a great team mentality. I just love what we're going to be able to do with those 2 tools in individually dynamic ways. And they're just, as I said, they're young cats, man, that have veteran mentalities. And that's just a beautiful thing to see. It's a very rare thing to see. And we've got something special for years to come with those 2 kids. And I'm pumped. I'm so pumped.
You talk about a team mentality. I mean, look at what Philip Lindsey was willing to do right after the NFL draft. I mean, the Broncos could have easily drafted him. They knew if anybody knew about Philip Lindsey, it was the Denver Broncos. I mean, the entire NFL, not just all 32 teams, but the league whiffed on this guy. They didn't invite him to the scouting combine. Nobody drafted him in 250 some odd picks.
What's his undrafted contract?
I'll look it up. But he had every opportunity to say, you know what? Screw the Broncos. Like, this is the team that knew the most about me. They passed on me. They even drafted this Dave Williams guy. The guy, I mean, no offense to Dave Williams. I mean, his name is even generic, and the way that he plays is a little bit generic. But like Philip Lindsey has this these local ties. He's got the Colorado fan base behind him. Everybody in Colorado rooting for the local prospect, and then he doesn't get picked. And he's on a 3-year contract, by the way. He signed a 3-year deal worth $1.725 million. And he's making $480,000 this year. So, but he had that opportunity to take that contract from probably any team in the league. But he said, you know what? No, I want to play for, like, the Broncos are my favorite team. I think that's one of those questions that people ask all the time. Like when you're arguing about if a guy's, leaving for more money or whatever, well, would you take less money to play for your favorite team? Now we can all point to Philip Lindsey and say, yes, absolutely. Yeah. I would take anything to play for my favorite team, just like Philip Lindsey did.
And it's going to pay off for him, man. He's going to be his clout as a local Denver hero is only going to grow. He's only going to make more money. He's going to be utilized properly. Look at week 1, man. First touchdown in this season. And that's saying something, man. He not only comes in, makes our 53 without having to play week 4, but look at the arsenal of weapons we have, wide receiver wise, running back wise. I think that something we should talk about in a sec even is Jake Butt made a couple awesome plays. No one's really talking about it all. That was, we have a lot of weapons, and for it to be Lindsey that comes in and starts this season off putting the first points on the board, man, how special is that?
It's amazing. It was an incredible moment. When it happened, I almost couldn't even believe it. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. This is the first touchdown of the year. Is this just a beautifully designed, beautifully executed How about Deshaun Hamilton? Dude didn't even get targeted in the passing game yesterday, but he made that block.
That's what they kept talking about that. They'd be like, yeah, Deshaun Hamilton made some good plays. And I'm like, well, he did. He had 0 catches. Like, what are they talking about? But then I eventually came to understand that he made some other plays that were kind of more not on the stat sheet necessarily.
Right. It was nice. It was real nice. But yeah, and that'll be exciting too to see him get involved in the offense. I mean, even just looking at this and being greedy for a second here, I mean, we didn't see Deshaun Hamilton get involved in the offense yesterday. Tim Patrick had the opportunity for the big play, but he dropped it, and so he technically hasn't got involved. Jeff Hireman had 1 catch, and it was a pretty nice one for 15 yards. But I mean, with his 2 catches yesterday, he proved to be exactly what we thought he was going to be.
Not only that, he was the 4th most targeted player.
Yep,
that's
absolutely.
Big.
Yeah.
That's the kind of the underrated but stat is, yes, he made those 2 good catches, and it was like, yeah, that's what we have in Jake Butt. That's what we need. That's what we've been wanting him to get back to being healthy so that we can do. But he was the 4th most targeted guy by Case. So I think that's going to be something that only improves. And you think about, Emmanuel Sanders in the game that he had. Well, then it's like teams are okay. No, we got to put a greater focus on Sanders. Okay, go for it. Go for it. Because then we're going to hit DT. Then we're going to get Hamilton factored in more. Then we're going to get, the ball over to Sutton more. Then we're going to be able to hit those backs more. It's just crazy how we have so many different options that there's literally no way that they can game plan any one of those guys. So it's just going to be a mix of all of them and utilized in different ways depending upon what poison the defense decides to drink.
Yep, the Broncos were extremely efficient even yesterday too with the guys that they did utilize. And how about Emmanuel Sanders? Man, struggled with the ankle injury last year, understandably so. I thought he broke his leg in half in that Giants game last year. So for him to even have come back and played at all was pretty impressive. But yesterday, he caught 10 of 11 targets for 135 yards and that unbelievable touchdown.
Yeah.
That was awesome. And he capped it off with the front flip, which is hilarious. That's totally him. He's, that's just him. Yep. But he did a great job. And 54 yards after the catch, led the team. And most of them came on, obviously, that touchdown. But he also had a really nice
catches. 10 catches. That's awesome.
He delivered in a big way. Big way. So I was very pleased by that. And the passing game in general. I mean, there were 3 interceptions, yes. But we gotta be able to focus on what went well yesterday too.
475 yards despite 3 interceptions.
Boom.
Think about that. What happens when we don't have 3 interceptions?
Yep.
The Seattle defense may not be what they were. They're missing some pieces, but they're still a well-schemed defense. They're still an NFL, defense. I'm just excited to see they're not all – we're going to play better Ds and we're going to play worse Ds this year. Obviously that seems like a very general statement, but I'm excited for what we're going to do if we can clean up these mistakes and really just unleash these weapons. We're only going to build more and more chemistry every single week. And the crazy thing has been, I think, as well as just staying healthy, man. We came out of that game completely healthy, right?
Yeah, completely healthy.
Any new injuries.
I don't even think there was a stoppage of play for any Broncos player yesterday. To he kind of dinged his hand or something. I don't think there was ever even a stoppage of play. I know there was a couple for Seattle, unfortunately, but they played a clean game and they were still physical. Obviously the tackling wasn't what we wanted it to be at times, but I think that they played a physical game defensively. They got after the quarterback, and I want to talk about that defense a little bit. There was a lot of guys that really stood out, and you have to watch the game multiple times to really appreciate what everybody on that defense is doing, because there's so many moving parts on a defense like Denver's, and especially in the trenches. And so if you don't watch the game multiple times, you really don't get the opportunity to appreciate what guys like Adam Gotsis are doing, what Shelby Harris is doing, because you got to really pay attention for when they're even on the field. But I think we need to highlight really quick before we get into the discussion of Von Miller. I think we need to highlight Bradley Chubb's performance. The rookie out of North Carolina State, obviously very highly touted, very much a guy that everyone's got high expectations for. So in yesterday's game, he had 7 total pressures on the quarterback, 6 hurries, which isn't a hit, but that means he's affecting the play. 6 of them led the team. The next highest was 2. And then he had, obviously, the sack at the beginning of the game. So 7 total pressures, 3 tackles, 2 plays that Pro Football Focus calls stops, which is a gain of 0 or a loss of yards. So he had 2 of those. And then he had 1 missed tackle, and he obviously gave up. He was the victim of that Will Dissly catch in the first half. But that's not his fault. I mean, why is he in coverage? Yeah. But
and not only that, but hey, let's let him grow from that. You know, especially coming out of it with the victory. Yep. Everything that went wrong can be used as fuel to get better. And that's what I think Broncos fans really need to put into perspective when, yes, they know they screwed up in these ways. But, guys, we got the W. We're 1-0. We beat the frickin' Seahawks, which is the one game this whole year that I wanted to win.
Yeah.
To be honest with you. Personally, from a very emotional, completely not intellectual, heart overhead place, I wanted to beat the frickin' Seahawks. And I mean, it's still not enough. It doesn't satisfy my 48 revenge, desires, but that was a great start. And that was an emotional victory for me. But you look at the mistakes, you look at those things, as long as the team is addressing them and treating it that way and using it as, guys, yes, we did some things good, but there's a lot of things that we have to do better or we're going to lose. We can't turn the ball over 3 times and think that we're still going to be able to win games, So that's where, if that's the mentality and that's the perception, and they're really, clinging to those things and downloading as much, things that you can use for progress, things that you can use for improvement, just as long as that's happening, then we came away with the victory and we have stuff to learn, and we're just going to improve and get better for next week. I love that.
Yep. 100%. 100% in agreement on that. Who stood out to you defensively? Good or bad?
Well, obviously besides Vaughn, Justin Simmons, not in a good way. And it was, I think there was some missed tackles from him. There was some, I don't know what happened on that Lockett play of what they were supposed to be doing. Roby got hurdled and gave up that play to Brandon Marshall. There was a couple. So those two, the no fly outside of Chris Harris, I think left something to be desired. Now Simmons made a big play that I think kind of emotionally maybe swings the balance over to more positive than negative because of that turnover. It's so huge. But Vance said, we talked about this, I think, last podcast. Vance said he wants the defense to be consistent rather than giving up 3 plays and then getting an interception. He's less inclined to don't take a lot of those chances. You're not, you play the player, not the ball, all that kind of stuff. I think that was something that disappointed me. Was I want the no fly to, be able to be the no fly. I don't want them to have to lose that nickname because they're obviously people are flying all over the place. So, I think there's a lot of room for improvement there. I think we're really missing Cravens in the coverage of the tight end. I think that's something that we're really excited about. And then now it's a huge glaring weakness. So I think Simmons made up for it a bit with that INT, but those missed tackles, it's like, come on, man. It just, it makes me ashamed. I harken back to my days as a kid watching football. And that's just an unforgivable thing from, 90s and 80s football that you just would never allow, never tolerate. You freaking destroy those guys. And I know there's a lot of stuff about defense being too soft and not tackling like they used to. I hear it a lot from older people I watch football with. That's something that you just can't get. You can't have happen, man. You can't let I know that tight end's good. He's a he's a gem that got dusted off yesterday. The whole world knows him now. But goodness me, man, for those 4 missed tackles on that play, it's like, dude, you guys are punishing NFL defensive guys that need to be making those tackles, man.
Right,
you can't
right.
be. Yeah, that's an unforgivable thing. So I think Simmons and Roby both stood out negatively, but let's see how they recover. Let's see how they recover. That's the theme of all the mistakes and all the negatives, and why I'm not willing to beat the Broncos and rip them apart. I saw the same mistakes as everybody else. I want to see those mistakes not happen 2 weeks in a row. And if they do, then we can have a completely different discussion next podcast, or a couple podcasts from now, next recap podcast, where we talk about the things that they're consistently doing wrong. Mm-hmm. Too little of a sample size to really beat them apart, in my opinion.
Yep. I'm with you on that for sure. And true to form, the Broncos were in their nickel. At least they had a third corner out on the field roughly 70% of the game. And that number 3 cornerback was not Tremaine Brock. Isaac Yiadom didn't even dress for the game. That third cornerback was none other than number 24, Pac-Man Jones. Oof. And he had, according to Pro Football Focus, so for those of you who don't have it, grab Pro Football Focus Premium Stats. It's really fun information. It's an investment, but it's really fun information and useful information throughout the season. And so if you don't have a subscription to that, they're not paying us to say that or anything. I it's a great company. They do a good work. And so there's interesting things on there like this. Pac-Man Jones had the second highest coverage grade of any Broncos cornerback, or any Broncos defender yesterday, excuse me. He had the highest of any cornerback on the team, above even Chris Harris Jr. He was targeted twice, gave up 1 catch, but the fact that he was targeted twice means that, they weren't really throwing it his way. So He gave up 1 catch for 6 yards, 1 yard after the catch. That's a really good job. That's a job well done. That's 27 coverage snaps, and he was targeted twice. And so Pac-Man's debut, that was surprising to me. I wasn't expecting him to be so effective so quickly, but I guess I didn't really know what to expect. I haven't watched a lot of him throughout the years, kind of all, like probably most people. The majority of what I know about Pac-Man is what he does off the field.
Right.
But I think that he's very
Bengals have never been a target focus for me. They've never really generated too much excitement. I think since the days of Chad Ochocinco, which Pac-Man was around then.
Yep.
But yeah, my takeaway from Pac-Man was, yes, it was nice. It was nice to see all that. I think the one play that I remember the most, or the 2 plays I remember the most, was him getting pushed by Marshall and just seeing that was offensive pass interference. That was nice. And then just talk about storybook. There's a lot of storybook stuff that happened. Those rookie numbers are just insane. That their debut, they had the exact same amount of carries and yards. It's like married together for life now going forward as our 2 guys. To have the same stats was nuts. But dude, what else? How storybook was Russell Wilson's last play ending with a number 24 interception, baby.
Oh, it was beautiful. It was exactly how he dreamed it up.
That was the last time 24 was out there, was against the Seahawks.
Yep.
So to see our redemption or our revenge end with 24 getting a pick, come on, man.
I love that. I love it. Yeah, when I saw him pick that off, I was just like, it couldn't have been a sweeter ending, unless it was like unless he had taken it to the house or something like that, But it was awesome. I absolutely loved that. And he did the number 24 well. I mean, it's not like he's out there getting just torched wearing that number. And, I think that was kind of an interesting theme to me across the league this week. And old players, literally old players, not like former players, but old players like Adrian Peterson, Ryan Fitzpatrick, Pac-Man Jones, Antonio Gates, I think, was out there playing for the Chargers. I mean, these old guys, they're still out there doing it, man.
Still getting it
and playing at a high level. That was fun to see. That was really fun to see.
Well, and Pac-Man looks like he's still fast, man. That's what's nuts. Is he's when he's doing the kick returns, he looks like a young man. And that's where we bring Pac-Man in. You're like, okay, we're filling a spot with an old corner who's probably lost a lot of speed and what. But hey, I'm not seeing it, no. And it's looking like Chris Harris and Pac-Man are the two corners that we can count on in the no-fly zone, which is awesome. Especially when we had so much question marks about what the no-fly zone would look like, what specifically our cornerbacks would look like, and hoping that Roby takes that step up. Well, hey, now we may only need Roby to be the same guy he was.
Yep. And Roby, remind me if I'm wrong. Roby, was he the one that gave up the touchdown to Brandon Marshall?
Yeah, the one that popped up over the top. Yeah, he got the two bad plays from Roby where Chris Carson hurt. It's hard to even call that a hurdle, man. It looks like he leapt over the highest point of his head. That was wild. Yeah. But that play and then the one to Brandon Marshall on the right side of the end zone.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I felt like the Seahawks really tried hard to get Brandon Marshall a touchdown in this game. Because it's his former team. It's a team that drafted him. It's a team that initially traded him, let him go. Seemed like, to
be honest,
they went to him.
I don't know. I don't know, man. I don't think that's it. I think that the rumors initially of Brandon Marshall going there were for the fact that they lost Jimmy Graham and they need a red zone threat. And that's where a lot of the talk in offseason about them cutting Marshall and whatnot, I'm like, dude, that's going to be a mistake because he is, even if he's slower, even if whatever, if his knee's held up from that surgery, he's just going to be a red zone threat for them. And then losing Doug Baldwin, who knows how long that's going to be for. I haven't really seen the news on that yet today. Yeah. It's looking like that was a genius decision. Brandon Marshall played really well, and he's still going to be able to catch just as well as he always has. If you get him in those one-on-one situations against a guy like Roby's not the physical threat that's going to be able to stop Brandon Marshall if Russell Wilson puts it where it's supposed to be. So to me, as someone that Marshall's my favorite receiver in the NFL still to this day. And my favorite Bronco receiver of all time, to watch him do that. And I had him on my bench yesterday, man. I didn't start him against the no-fly. I refused to, even though I love Marshall, but I will not be benching him for the rest of the season, especially my great mistake benching him over Kelvin frickin' Benjamin. My great fantasy regret of yesterday, which definitely I'm losing by a point now.
Oh, man.
And they got Bilal Powell, and so what I'm hoping for is a fumble and he gets knocked out for the game on his first carry, and then I'm gonna win. But probably not gonna happen. Gosh. Probably not gonna happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there's I think that's a little bit of a sweet thing for Marshall to come in and score against Denver, but I don't know if that at all factored into them wanting to use him in that way, or as much as he's just their best red zone threat.
Yeah, that's definitely possible. That is, and just watching them yesterday, I don't know, maybe it was Disley, I don't know, but Marshall has always been a good red zone player. He knows how to position his body well. He knows how to make those plays, and so yeah, I don't disagree with that. That's a good point, and I think that maybe it was just all the sweeter for him to score in Denver. Maybe that's the way to put it.
And that's definitely true. Definitely true. Dude, punters were great on both sides.
Yeah. Yep. Man,
Seattle's punter looked really freaking good. That was the unknown story. We all knew what Marquette King would be, and just seeing that happen was awesome. Pinning that back on the 5, some of those things are going to decide some games, man. Yeah. So it could have even helped decide our game. So that was really cool. But that Seattle punter was a surprise. He's really good.
Yeah, I remember watching a little bit of him in the Texas Bowl game last year. He was the MVP of whatever bowl game that was. I don't even remember what it is, but he was the MVP of the game.
I didn't know that was possible.
Yeah, I didn't either. But man, I knew he was a good player. I still thought it was funny when they traded up for him because, they traded up to get a punter. But obviously he's a weapon, and he really helped the Seahawks yesterday in their cause. The fact that the Broncos weren't able to necessarily dominate the field position game yesterday. I need to look at the numbers on that to know that for certain, but it didn't feel like they dominated field position. Felt like they were starting pretty deep in their own territory almost every drive, other than the interception from Simmons. But he was a big reason for that. He didn't have any shanks. He didn't look like a rookie out there. He looked like a legendary NFL punter out there.
You know what special teams player didn't help the Seahawks yesterday?
Who's that?
Sebastian freaking Janikowski. Mr. I'm wearing 2 sizes too small of freaking clothes. Yeah. What the heck was up with that? He looked so out of place. One of the announcers was just like, man, it looks like Janikowski like stole somebody's uniform and snuck on the field.
Yep. Yeah, it did. It actually did. He looked like a fan who picked up some Janikowski jersey outside the Seahawks stadium, flew to Denver, and walked right out onto the field.
Yeah, it looked like he sucker punched a fan and took his clothes and snuck out there. Brandon Perna said it best. It's nice to see Sebastian Janikowski still finding ways to help the Broncos win, despite not being a Raider. So that was nice. Seabass.
That was nice.
It's about time for Seabass to retire, man. If he misses those 2 in a row, those 2 chances in a row, you saw Pete Carroll over there shaking his head like, dude, what are we even doing with this guy?
They got the best punter in the league, and they've got this washed up. I don't mean that in a, I don't know. Washed up is pretty harsh, but I mean they've got a kicker that's past his prime.
Looks like he let himself go like 3 years ago. Yeah. There's a cool little quote from Zach Stevens about Vance Joseph talking about an aggressive Case Keenum, and he said after every mistake he made, the next drive was pretty special. Mm-hmm. He's going to be aggressive, and I want him to do that. I don't want a quarterback who's going to make mistakes and then fold. It was good to see him battle and not fold. And that was exactly what we were talking about. I love that. I love that if he folded, he never would have gone and tried to gun that pass to DT after having 3 interceptions. Yeah. And I don't want to see a quarterback cave in on himself, because you're the leader, you're the headship, and your whole team's going to cave around you if you do that.
Yep, absolutely. That's the mentality that every team should want from their quarterback. Look at Tampa Bay yesterday and Fitzpatrick. They didn't go into New Orleans thinking that they were on a sinking ship and that, we better just do the best that we can. That guy went in there and just freaking dominated the game. 5 touchdowns, dude.
Fitz magic, man. Holy moly. That was the biggest story of yesterday, in my opinion, of all the games, was just Tampa Bay going out there. And I mean, you look at, this is the Saints that put up, Drew Brees put up like 40 something points, and Kamara had a career game, and they were in New Orleans.
Yeah.
And the Bucs went in there with a backup quarterback and a backup corner, and they freaking romped them.
It was fun to watch.
Saints didn't even start to catch up until the end of the game. They made that game look close, and it wasn't. Tampa smoked them from first 3 quarters were smoking them, and that's just crazy. Crazy.
Yep. That was a lot of fun to watch. And who else is fun to watch? Von Miller. He's pretty fun to watch. That dude dominates football games. And I think that in the preseason, now that we've seen what he can do in the regular season setting this year, obviously we know what Von Miller brings to the table, but it's clear now that he wasn't going 100% in the preseason. He saved his best for Sunday. And my favorite play of all the plays that he made, because he made many, my favorite play was when Chris Carson was rumbling toward a first down, and Von Miller just comes in and just takes the ball out of his hands. Took it from him.
Next to the strip sack on Cam Newton, and maybe the Brady sack where he kind of rubbed his area all over Brady. I think that's 1 and 2, but that was probably 3, because it looked, I don't know, man, it looked like almost like a cartoon. Vaughn just comes in there and goes, "That's mine," and just takes it. It was the easiest fumble, or the easiest strip I've ever seen. I didn't even know what happened. I thought Carson's tackled, and all of a sudden 2 guys are trying to tackle Vaughn. I'm like, what happened? And he just ran over there and freaking took his lunch money, man.
Yep. Excuse me. That's my ball. Thank you very much. Oh, man.
That's and he wants, so Vaughn wants 30 sacks this year, what's the sack record? Is it 23?
22 and a half.
22 and a half.
He needs 23 at least.
And he wants 30. which is just I love him going, yeah, I don't want to just break the record. I want to like shatter it and be the first person to ever hit 30. But hey, you know what he's on pace for? 48.
48. I love it. I love it.
He's on pace to double the sack rate. And obviously he's not I'm not going to say not, because I'd like him to have a superhuman season, but he's probably not going to get 3 sacks every game, but goodness me. And like I said before, we hit Russell Wilson 6 times.
Yeah, big time.
6 times. What are we going to, and they don't have the best O-line, so let's put that asterisk in there. But man, there's not a lot of great lines. There's not a lot of great O-lines in the NFL.
Right.
And I don't know how many of those great ones we're playing this year. So, goodness me, what are we going to do? What is Vaughn going to do? You know, are they really – there's going to be some games where they go, oh, we can't let that happen with Vaughn, and they're going to just double him the whole game. Vaughn gets like a half sack or, 1 or 2. And then you know what else is going to happen? We're going to get 6 or 7 sacks another way.
Yeah, exactly.
This is a scary pass rush.
It really is. They can, when they pin their ears back, there's nobody that's gonna stand in the way. It was amazing to watch. It was fun. The Broncos should have won by more than 3 points. I know that when you say that, a lot of people are like, well, you're just excusing all these things or you're overlooking these things, but it really felt like it wasn't that close of a game. Other than what did we talk about? Maybe 5 or 6 big plays one way or the other. So I thought it looked like that they should have won by a lot more than they did. And so
I think we controlled that game for about 90% of it.
Yeah, exactly. Yep, they did. They absolutely did. And
that's what you want to see out of a young unit that hasn't been working together very well. The defense is another story. It felt like the defense was returning to form, but for our offense to put up 475, despite, very little of that being, I wouldn't say very little being a carryover, but it's like this new identity that we formed has so many new pieces. And for us to do that coming out the gates, week 1, it's very exciting. Very exciting for the potential.
0 3-and-outs yesterday. 0.
I did not know that, but what a beautiful thing to my ears right now.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, the only time the Broncos had a drive that ended in 4 plays was after the Justin Simmons interception. They technically didn't go 3-and-out because they kicked a field goal and made it, but that was their only drive of 4 plays.
Yeah, that was 3 and points, so that's fine.
Yep.
How many 3-and-outs did we get on them?
I know
we started the season off with the 3-and-out, which is a great omen.
Yes, that's always a good omen. And anytime you start off with I think the only more satisfying thing, other than like obviously a turnover, is when you can get when you defer to the second half, and then you get the 3-and-out to start the game, and your offense gets to come out. It's almost like you started off with the ball. But let me look it up here. Team stats, third down efficiency. So let's see. That doesn't necessarily tell me. I don't know. I'll have to look it up. But Seattle was 2 out of 12 on third downs, so we won the third down battle, no doubt. But 3-and-outs, I guess I'm not 100% sure. It doesn't say here. So, but all in all, just a really great effort from the Broncos. That game would have been a real shame if they had found a way to lose that game, despite the turnovers. I think somebody mentioned on Twitter yesterday to me that the Broncos deserved to lose based on the turnovers from Case Keenum. I don't agree with that. I think there's a lot of times where you're turning the ball over and they're really stupid mistakes, or you're just repeatedly shooting yourself in the foot, or you're not able to overcome those mistakes or what have you. I don't agree that yesterday that they deserved to lose. I felt like they should have won that game by more points. So
agreed. And that's just, I don't know, that just seems like a weird reaction to me, because it's like, okay, well then what do you say about Seattle with those turnovers? They threw picks, they fumbled the ball. So they don't deserve it for their turnover. That's where it's like, that seems like a very simplistic thing to come with. Oh, well, we don't deserve a win since we turned the ball. No, we responded after those turnovers.
Yeah, exactly.
If we just turned the ball over a bunch of times and came away with this magical victory, but no, we were resilient in the face of after making mistakes. And why do we fall down, Bruce? So we can learn to get back up. A little Batman Begins wisdom for everybody out there. And that's the thing, is they took those mistakes, and now let's see how they get back up. Yep. And we got Max Power on the comments talking about Cortland Sutton outperformed all the other rookie wideouts. So yes, he only got a couple, those couple catches, but they were both big. They were both 20+ yards, I believe. Yeah. Dude was wide open on both of his catches. So he was like more of like an underutilized weapon, and did really well. He says the only rookie wideout who did better than Sutton was Pettis, which I agree with. He's the one that was most noticeably better, whether he actually played better as a holistic. Calvin Ridley did pretty good. But yeah, very interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah, that is a great point. Sutton showed a flash yesterday, and I think that there's going to be games this year when the Broncos, like you mentioned earlier, they're going to be able to feature him because of the attention that's being paid to other guys. They just are. They're going to be able to feature him, and then he's going to be the guy that's drawing the double teams, and then it's going to just be this cycle that goes around and around and around. And I don't know. I feel really good. I feel like at this point, if the Broncos have a down week offensively, I'm going to be fairly disappointed. I don't think they have to put up, 470+ yards of offense every single week, but I think that they can turn a lot more of those drives into scores. And I think that they're going to do a great job being consistent this year because of the weapons that they have, because Bill Musgrave is creative and innovative. And, we're going to fire all the missiles on both sides of the ball. Yeah. It just feels like that.
Dude, we're going to obliterate the Raiders, man. I can't wait to watch them play tonight. Win or lose, they go into the lab tomorrow and they watch what we did, and they see like the couple bonehead things, and they're going, holy freaking crap, are we going to have to bring our A game to meet this team? That's what that dude, Derek Carr, is going to be terrified of this pass rush. Terrified. And he's another guy that I think is resilient through adversity. But my goodness, man, I think the Raiders have a better O-line, correct? Than the Seahawks?
Yeah, I think so.
So they got a better O-line.
But they do have a rookie. They have a rookie left tackle though, Colton Miller.
There we go. Yeah,
I mean, we saw how that worked with Garrett Bowles last year.
Right. That's gonna be interesting, and I don't think they have. So let's do a quick comparison of the Seahawks versus the Raiders as far as where do you think the Raiders are better?
Maybe running back. We'll see how Lynch does, but I really like Chris Carson and Rashad Penny. I was surprised yesterday Carson only got 7 carries. I was pretty surprised by that.
Penny didn't do too much. They were playing from behind a lot too, so there's that. Yeah. But Carson looked good.
Wide receiver, I think the Raiders have the edge for sure.
Yep.
Especially with Baldwin getting knocked out early in the game.
I would say Baldwin, Lockett, and Marshall are better than what the Raiders have. But
really,
I would say so.
That I could see it. I could see that.
What has Amari Cooper really done to show that he's going to be the Amari Cooper we thought he was? So he seems like more of a name.
Dropsy.
He seems more of a name that didn't pan out as much. And then Jordy, old Jordy Nelson is not young Jordy Nelson. Mm-hmm. And then what else? What do they got beyond that? That's
a good point, because Martavis is gone now.
And that was it. It was Martavis, and he's not there. So they don't have the better wide receiver core, in my opinion. They don't.
Tight end, I don't even know. Is Jared Cook the Raiders tight end?
Yes. Tight end, I don't know. Not bet. It doesn't. I'm not sure how much better he's going to be than that Seahawks tight end, unless that was just us sucking to cover the cover/tackle the tight end. But yeah, I was going to say,
defensively, nobody.
I don't think the wide receivers are. I don't think Jordy and Amari Cooper are better than B. Marshall and Lockett, but I don't know. Whatever.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would say Marshall and Jordy at this point could be a wash.
Yeah.
And then Baldwin, I would take Baldwin over Cooper.
Yep.
So, yeah, that's a good point.
And then what about defensively?
Defensively, I don't think any way. If the Raiders still had Khalil Mack, I would say, defensive line or whatever, but clearly I don't think that's an issue anymore. I think Denver's got a huge edge there with their offensive line going up against the Raiders' defensive front, and the Raiders' secondary has been notoriously bad.
Yep.
And I don't know how much better they've gotten this offseason. We'll get a good indicator tonight, and the Raiders are going to get a good taste tonight of what they're going to see next week, because I feel like with what we saw from the Broncos this week, I think that the Raiders are going to get a feel for what it's like to face an offense that has a great diversity of weapons.
Yeah.
I feel like the Rams have a lot of good players. So
do you see big things for Butt this year?
I do. I think Bud is going to be a big-time weapon for the Broncos. I do. I think as his confidence grows, as Keenum's confidence in him grows, we saw yesterday that they kind of prioritized him in terms of the not necessarily the pitch count, but they got him more
Pass
opportunities than Hireman.
As far as going to him as a receiver, that was I thought maybe it would take a few weeks and maybe a couple of really big plays to kind of swing things in that direction. But coming out the gates, him being the fourth most targeted guy, I think we could be in line for some surprising Jake Butt stats this year. As far as those, I think we're going to get a heavy dose of both those guys. But I think Butt is going to be I think Butt's going to be the guy.
Yeah, I love it. I'm excited for football action tonight. Obviously, you and I are going to be back at this either Wednesday or Thursday, putting together kind of a preview podcast, maybe talking some Broncos fantasy matchups. We'll look at the injury report. We'll talk a number of different things.
It'll be more of a wild card kind of episode,
yeah.
The midweek ones in general. For those that are regular listeners, we're going to hit a heavy recap episode either the night of or the day after each game. But then we're going to do a midweek to help you get you through your midweek. And that one's going to be a little bit more kind of all over the place, some fun things. We're going to try to, inject some wild card stuff into that episode just to get you through your midweek and get you stoked for the next game.
Yep, absolutely. Can't wait. Regular season is here, brother.
Dude.
Yes,
and
the regular season is here.
In my opinion, it's off to a freaking great start.
It is. I agree with you there. I definitely agree with that. And it just doesn't get better than a victory. It doesn't. So
it doesn't get better than a victory over the Seahawks, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
we've been my most hated team
years.
Outside of the AFC West, so that was very satisfying, including the Patriots. I know I'm a rare one at that. I know most Broncos fans probably hate the Patriots, but here's the thing: we own the Patriots, man, for the most part.
Do.
So we're the bane. We're the Patriot bane, man. We came into the AFL. The first AFL game was a Broncos over Boston Patriots victory, man. We've owned them since the beginning of time. So I love it, man. Seahawks, we've lost to. Seahawks have beaten us twice recently. So that's where that to me needs to get squared out. So I have a bit more emotional passion for wanting to decimate the Seahawks and the Patriots because, hey, we're the Patriot killers, man.
Yep. I wanted that one badly. And I think a lot of Broncos country did. But yeah, absolutely. And for those of you listening, we just want to say, Brandon and I both, we want to say thank you. Now, we want to thank you for listening, joining us this season. We want you guys to know that we just love talking football with you. We're not here to put ourselves on a pedestal with this podcast. We're here to discuss Broncos football with you. So we want to engage in the chat, in the comments. So spread the word. Spread the word to your friends, to your fellow Broncos fans. Let them know that they can engage with this show live. That we'll talk about the things that you're bringing up in the chat live, and we just want to get to know you guys better. So subscribe to our YouTube channel, subscribe to us on iTunes, leave us a review, let us know what we can do better. Let us know what you like. All the same, we want to get this podcast to a place where everybody is excited about it. And like Cameron just said, the juice is loose. That has previously had negative connotations, but we're going to bring positive to it.
We're gonna restore balance to the galaxy. And by the way, I know some of you follow me on the Epic Keckler. Some of you follow me on my quasi new Twitter account, newly rebranded as the Knights of Den. I think it's at Knights of Den. We came across that one the other day thanks to our buddy Preston.
Yes.
It was actually a typo or an autocorrect because I say Den more than I say Ren. And he's like, Knights of Denver? And so it's a thing now, man. For me, being a screenwriter, I have a lot of people that follow me for different reasons, and a lot of them aren't football fans. So I wanted to kind of partition and make a football account. So if you're into the football, which obviously if you're listening to the podcast and you've made it this far, you must have at least a slight interest, follow me on Knights of Den, because that was where Sunday I was unleashed for the first time in a while. Usually I try to very lightly tweet about football. This, dude, week 1, I was hammering it all game, retweeting, original tweets, all that, football nonstop when football games are on. So if that's your thing, hit me up at Knights of Den.
I love it. Follow Brandon on Knights of Den or at Epic Keckler, obviously football centric on Knights of Den. Follow me at Sayre Bedinger. As always, check out predominantlyorange.com for some of my written work, and the rest of the staff there at Predominantly Orange. Just an incredible group of people. So we appreciate you all. We appreciate the engagement. Let's go Rams tonight. Let's beat the Raiders. Come on now. We want the Raiders to be limping into Denver, not by getting injured, but we want them coming in with a little bit of negative energy. And I don't.
Very, very quick note: the Chargers are not the team to beat in the AFC West.
No, the Chargers looked bad yesterday, and
they were the first team to get beat in the AFC West.
They were, and they deserved it. They got absolutely destroyed by Tyreek Hill, and so yeah. And for those of you who may have just heard, Cruz has just jumped into the Juice podcast. He's awoken. So here we are. We're all here together today, celebrating Broncos victory.
One of the newest members. One of the newest members of the Knights of Den.
Yep, one of the latest. Yeah, he's got his orange and blue on today, so we're celebrating today. I got my Von Miller Color Rush jersey on. It's 70 plus degrees here, but I got one of my favorite Zip Broncos hoodies on. It's a good day. It's
a great
Victory Monday. So
it's going to be a great year. And I don't want Knights of Den to be my thing. I want Knights of Den to be our thing. I think that could be like a Bronco culture thing, is like, for this new era, let's all rise at night, baby. Let's be the Knights of Den together.
Rise at night, the Knights of Den here on the Juice. I love it. Absolutely love it.
Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Thanks for coming along this ride, this journey, and stay tuned, man. We got a good episode coming for you in a couple days. We got a great season of Bronco football ahead of us. Something in the wind is just in our favor, man. I'm feeling it. So, hey, thanks, everybody. As always, God bless and go Broncos.